Hey y'all, it's your girl Monica, and I'm super excited to just kind of share with you. I wanted to just kind of give you like a little power up message, just for like a mindset perspective and a little bit of testimony, just to share some of my creative journey and story, and mainly though to like share with you God's perspective of your creative and what he's called you to and who he's called you to be and the responsibility that we have. So I'll make a couple points here, and I'm going to read Matthew 25 verses 14 through 30. And so you can grab your Bibles. I'm reading King James. We'll read Matthew 25 verse 14, and the first kind of thing we're going to see here in this passage is focusing on our responsibility, our accountability, right? We have a responsibility for the things that God has given unto us. So let's get into it. Matthew 25 verse 14, it says, "For the kingdom of heaven is as a man traveling into a far country, who called his own servants and delivered unto them his goods. And unto one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to every man according to his several ability, and straightway took his journey." First, let's just point out the fact that this is a comparison to what the kingdom of heaven is like. And so the word of the Lord is giving us here what it is to be a part of the kingdom of God, is to be given something to steward, to be responsible over, to be accountable in, to be a producer, a multiplier, a harvester, an investor, whatever you want to call it, whatever perspective you want to see it in, but that the kingdom gives unto us something to steward and to be accountable for and responsible for. And he has an expectation, and he gives that to us according to the capacity, according to the capacity stored in us, according to the faith that he's already released and stored on the inside of us, right? So we got to understand in the first place that we had nothing, right? We know the scripture in Job that says, like, he says, naked I came into this world, and naked I'll return, right? I'll return to dust, naked. Like, you didn't have anything. So everything you have, everything that we have, every good and perfect gift comes from the Father above. This is the kingdom of heaven. This is a part of the kingdom of heaven, right? And so he gives unto us these gifts, these talents. And I want us to see gifts and talents not just as, you know, one-sided type of thing, but you can, like, gifts and talents, this is financial resources, this is gifts, this is privileges, this is opportunities that Jesus entrusts into the hands of his disciples, and he expects us to steward them well in such a way where we would produce a harvest from what it is that he has given unto us. All right, so we keep going here, and we see, we know, I might skip some of this, verse 16, 17, and through it, we know that he gave 1 5, he gave another 2, and he gave 1 1. And to two of them, one had 5, one had 2 talents. He said, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful of a few things. I will make you ruler over many." So they took what they had, whatever that was, and they stewarded it well, so well till they doubled it, right? So it's all about multiplication. He calls us to multiply in what we have been given. So one, we have to take responsibility. We got to have the right mindset. We got to have the right perspective, a perspective of humility, a perspective of humility that I came into this world with nothing, and everything that I have is a privilege from God. 2, that I have to be responsible, steward, and multiply, invest well what it is that he's given unto me. And we'll dig into some detail around that, right? Because how did these servants multiply what they had? Maybe they knew nothing about the talents that they had, the things they were given, the gifts, the privileges, the opportunities, the financial resources that they were given. So I'm sure that they had to take what they had, invest it into something so they can learn, so they can educate, so that they can become more skilled in what they had and what they were doing in order to multiply in it. A lot of us just want to kind of wake up and have it all. That would be nice, right? But that's not the way God does things in the kingdom, right? And so, you know, the part that he gives unto us, he gives us faith, he gives us grace, he gives us, you know, his mighty ability, and he says, go work. Faith without works is dead. So that means I gotta do something. I gotta go educate. I gotta learn. I gotta get mentored. I gotta get coached. I gotta be taught. I gotta learn. I gotta become skilled. I gotta rehearse. I gotta practice. I gotta study. Whatever is necessary for me to learn how to effectively multiply, to reproduce again from what God has already given me. We have that responsibility, guys. It must be in our mindset to do that. So here it is. Our first thing, what is that we have to have a mentality of humility to understand that we came in here with nothing. The second thing is that we have to be responsible stewards, accountable. Third thing is we have to educate. We have to be willing to make an investment with what we have and invest our way up in order to multiply, to truly produce what it is that is needed, right? If I want to be a doctor in this world, what do I have to do? I have to make the financial investment. I have to make the investment of time, right? In order to become a doctor. There are large investments I have to make in order to get the thing I want. So a lot of us want great things, but we don't want to pay the cost, pay the price in order to get there. We don't want to take the journey to get there. But God calls us to do things right. So here it is. Let's read the part here about, there's one thing I didn't tell you. When I realized that God had given me, you know, different talents, I basically at 5 years old started playing piano, just kind of banging around a bit. But, you know, I had a love for it, I guess, or maybe I was just interested in the noise. But at some point inside of it, and I think it was around 8 years old, 8 is when I started playing drums. And so what happened with the keys is, yeah, that's right. I started playing drums first when I was 8, and this was like full out. So my dad was starting a church. Shout out to Bishop Cage and Cathedral. And he was looking for musicians, and I went with him to the church, and they was trying to teach this guy how to play drums, and they sang a song, and he couldn't get the beat. And I was just like, Dad, I can get it. And he was like, you can't play drums. And I was like, but I can play that. I can do it. Let me try. So they let me try, and they're all laughing because they think it's just a joke. All right, just give her a chance to get on, and then we can just move on to what we're doing. So they start singing the song, and I get on the drums, and I start playing the song. Started playing the song, and I've been the drummer ever since. I was playing the next day for a service that they had, and I was the drummer for like 10 years. I started playing piano inside of that because I sat by somebody on keys, or my dad played a little bit as well, and they played, and I just watched them play. And then I learned it because the little shout bass line or whatever, and I figured out what it was, and I started like playing it and picking on it with my little fingers or whatever. So then I got put into lessons. I didn't want to take lessons. You know, I wanted to be free. I didn't want to take no lessons as a kid. I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go by this old lady's house and take music lessons. And my parents talked me into taking these lessons, right? So I eventually took lessons, and then by 12, I had written my first song. So these things were coming out of me. I was discovering the gifts that God had given unto me, right? And using these talents and investing in them, you know, by taking lessons and doing what was needful for me to get to the place that I wanted to be, or to that desired destination, right? And so I had these gifts. I began to invest in them, but there are more gifts that came. And up to this point, over 20, 30 years later, those things have multiplied into so much more, right? And so I'm super excited about that. Not that I saw it going to that, right? But taking what we have, when we're faithful to little, God makes us rulers over many things. So we continue to multiply and do well with what he gives us in the earth. And he will bless us. And man, he'll have so much delight in us as we steward well what he has given unto us. Okay, so let's read 24. It says, then he which had received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew thee that thou art a hard man, reaping where there's not sown, and gathering where you have not strawed. And I was afraid, and went and hid your talent in earth. And lo, there thou that is, and lo, there thou hast that is thine. Okay, KJV, right? But basically, this cat is like, look, I didn't ask. I don't want this. I didn't ask for this, and I don't want to be put under that kind of pressure to like produce something from this. I don't know if y'all know somebody like that. I don't know if that's you, but I know somebody like that who I've heard say something like before, like, I didn't ask for this. I don't want to do this. I told the Lord, take this away because I don't want it. Right? Really, we don't want responsibility of it. Really, we don't want to have to steward it. Really, we don't want to have to invest in it. Really, we don't want to have to produce from it. And so we get high-minded and prideful, and we start to speak against it because we want to resist it, and we want to make the point and get the point across that, look, take your stuff back. Right? And this is basically what this guy said. I'm afraid of what might happen. I'm afraid of what might not go where. You are wrapped in so much anxiety, right? So we got to come out of fear, come out of anxiety about the thing that God has given us and get into the joy of the Lord, right? He says when we do what it is that he has asked to do, we're faithful over what he's given, he gives us more. I know you're saying it, right? No, the reward of doing well with something is just getting more work to do. Don't see it that way. Look at the latter part. Enter into the joy of the Lord, right? There is a destination, a place that God has for us, that when we have maxed out and we have grown in the things he's given us, we've multiplied in those things. Now we're impacting the lives of others with those things. We hit a place where we're coasting. We're coasting in resources. We're coasting in fruitfulness. We're coasting in prosperity. We're coasting in joy. We're coasting in freedom. Whatever that is for you, right? Whatever that purpose, that destination, that end goal that God has, it is a joy. It's entering into a joy of the Lord. Oh my gosh, this is so good. And so the Lord told him he was wicked. He was wicked and slowful. You don't want to be called wicked and slowful because you keep putting off what you're going to do with your gift. You don't want to invest. You keep saying next time. You keep saying not this time. Well, when is there ever going to be a time? Trust me, guys. I've been there. Kept putting it off. Kept one thing after another. Reasons for this, reasons for that. Being afraid. This might not go well. Being a perfectionist, right? In the natural sense. Just not wanting to do it. But what I had to do to help myself get out of that place is I had to get mentors. I had to get coaches, right? I had to get people that were going to hold me accountable, be around people in groups that will hold me accountable. And so I began to invest, in people, in programs, and in things that would help to change my mindset. I began to read books. I began to go to conferences and events and things that would help me to break out of the place that I was stuck in for so long. And I can tell you so many stories and so much of that timeline in my life that has brought me to this point today to share this with you. So let's look at verse 27. Thou oughtest therefore to have put my money. This is the Lord answering him still. He said, you should at least took my money, took what I gave you and put it somewhere where when I came back, it'd have had a little gain on it. You know what I'm saying? At least 50%. A little something, right? Not to put my talent in the ground, not to put what I gave you in the ground until I got back, because you don't want to touch it. You don't want nobody else to touch it. You just want to give it back and say, listen, man, listen, I know that you come back for your stuff and you want to get money. You want to get some gains on something you ain't even worked for. Basically, he was telling the Lord that you're not worthy to be gaining off people, to be gaining on me. Listen, he gave you life. He gave us life. He gave us life. We had no life without him. We're nothing without him. Our life is a privilege and an opportunity. So he gave first. He's not asking us for something because he needed. Who do we think this is, right? Okay, let's look at 28. Take therefore the talent from him. He took it from him and he gave it to the one that had 10. And so I don't know if that's ever happened to you, but some of y'all might have hit some talent spots and, you know, some resources that just hit your life at a random point in time. As a teenager, as 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever it is, just hit your life. Probably transferred from somebody that was wasting it. Somebody that was wasteful, and God moved it from one person to the next. I've heard stories about people who couldn't sing and they started singing one day. I've heard stories about people who had 0 talents, 0 gifts, and nothing, and they were hungry for it. They wanted it. They pursued God years and years and years. They pursued so many different things years and years and years, and eventually God raised them up, and they became a person that had nothing and seemed like they wouldn't be worth anything to having everything. This is so amazing, right? 29, we got 2 more. So for unto everyone that had shall be given, and he shall have an abundance. But from him that has not shall be taken away even that which he had. And cast ye the unprofitable servant into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. This is crazy. Like, I think it's like really shows how serious God is about us stewarding what we have, about us returning in multiplication, in reproduction of what he has given unto us. It's so serious that he says that the ones that have, I will give them more. They'll get more and they'll have abundance. And the ones who don't have, even what they have will be taken away. That is the craziest thing to me. And most people see that as something is like, oh, that's unfair. But it's really not unfair, because those without are typically those who are wasting, those who are sitting, those who are hiding things in the earth, those who are wasting time and treasure and all of the resources by eating them. They're eating their seed constantly over and over. Every time they get more seed, they eat it up. They don't recognize the difference between seed and bread. And so we have to be good stewards over what God has given unto us, right? First thing, I'll just remind you again that humility, the mindset of humility is everything. To recognize that this is a sovereign God that has given us everything. We came here with nothing. He gave to us first. And so we give back to him in return. Still not able to repay him, right? This is the way of the kingdom of heaven. He calls us to steward and be accountable for what it is that he has given unto us. And we have to invest. We have to sacrifice in time and money and understand how to plant seeds well so that we're constantly seeing something reproducing where we can go to the next level and to the next level. And we take seed from that place and we plant it again. And we take seed from that place and we plant it again until we gain the fullness of what God has called us to gain. And that is at least multiplying by 2 what it is that we have, so that we can enter into his joy. I want to invite you, enter into the joy of the Lord. You may be stuck in a mundane place. You may not know how to get to the next thing. You may be in that in-between place and trying to figure out or wonder like what it is that I can do to get there. I don't have this or I don't have that, right? Take the step, take the extra mile, make the sacrifice, do what it takes. Go and sell your bag, and make for yourself a purse of money so that you can invest in your life and in what God has called you to and get to the next. I want to encourage you to not be afraid and to not fear, right? Do what God has called you to be. It's your season. It's your time. It's time to break out.